Good afternoon. My name is Bongiwe, Zwane, and welcome to the Cape Town City Hall. Of course, a different scene than we would have anticipated. We always know the State of the Nation address to be taking place inside the National Assembly, but Vuyo, a different scenery tonight.
Completely different this time around because, of course, of that fire that broke on the 2nd of January and destroyed most of the parliamentary precinct, as a result of which the city of Cape Town was generous enough to Parliament and borrowed them this hall over here, and that's why we're here.
And of course, that's why we're here. We know that Zandile Christmas Mafe is the man that's been accused of, in fact, setting Parliament on fire. And that, case continuing, of course, in the courts here in this particular province. And I'm quite intrigued that the last time you and I were here, we were trying to block and make sure that the wind does not blow us. But of course, this afternoon, a very different scene altogether. It's sunny, and I'm sure those who are not going to be wearing jerseys as they go to the back then of this particular hall are going to have an easier time.
Well, let's hope so. But the people who will be right next to them, bringing it all to our viewers, are our colleagues over here. Natasha Piri, what can we expect?
Well, despite critical issues that we will be posing to the various parliamentarians here on the red carpet, it'll be interesting to see what they'll be dressed in, whether the outfits are a hit or a miss. But my colleague Bulelani Phillips, I mean, you're always situated here in Cape Town. It's a SONA like no other. What can we expect?
I think it's quite a special and historic SONA, given that it's the first time that the State of the Nation address is held outside the parliamentary precinct. Of course, Vuyo did mention in his intro that the cause of Parliament holding the State of the Nation address here is as a result of that fire early last month. You must remember that I think it's also quite commendable that Parliament has been able to pull this kind of event at such short notice. A lot of people don't know that the preparations of SONA actually start mid-year in the previous year. So a lot of things would have been planned for, but given that eventuality that happened early last month, a lot of things would have had to be changed at short notice. From what we see, it seems like everything is kitted out nicely, and from the information that we are getting from the presiding officers is that it's all systems go. But of course, the question that everyone has been asking is whether how is security going to be, given that there may be fears that perhaps maybe what happened in Parliament last month may have actually spilled over here. I spoke to the police minister earlier this morning, and he was saying that from the police perspective, they are quite prepared and they're quite sure that the event is going to run smoothly, calling on South Africans to not panic, ensuring that he gives that message that everything is under control. Of course, the last thing I did put to him was that as the police, did crime intelligence pick up any threat that may disrupt these proceedings tonight? And the answer was a negative. So we expect that everything is going to be running smoothly. Natasha.
Let me bring this conversation to my colleague Samgele Masego. The SONA also comes on the backdrop of, the July unrest reports being released, the state capture reports being released. Do we expect the president to actually touch on some of these issues?
Well, Bulelani Phillips, our colleague, brings a very interesting point of intelligence and policing in the country. But if we go back to the report that was done by the high panel experts, it speaks to how these law enforcement agencies were sleeping on the job during the July unrest. So it would be rather interesting, how come they never picked up these tips when they were informed by state security agencies? that there is a threat with the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma, and the governing party has become the most important national security threat to the country, as by that expert panel report. So these members of parliament, that red carpet that we are seeing there, most of them who are called honorable will not have a chance today of walking down that red carpet. They will be dropped off in the corner and they will walk across. The red carpet is only reserved for the president, the deputy president, the presiding officers of the National Parliament, and also the judiciary, whom will be led by Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who has brought those two reports that implicate the likes of Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, the Minister of Communications, in facilitating state capture at Denel. You've got also other ministers whom are in the firing line, former ministers as well, and you've got a cabinet that is under the cloud, particularly after the July unrest, that they failed to provide leadership in the country, and cabinet failed in its oversight roles in the country. So it's no state of the nation like we ordinarily see. The president, speaking in parliament last year, said this is no normal state of the nation address. Said the country must rise up and work. And wow, what happened in 2021? The country went up in flames with the arrest of his predecessor, former President Jacob Zuma. The country had been ravaged by COVID-19, the economy crippled. But the challenges in the country, he said, are insurmountable. 2 years ago, he said he had a dream of new smart cities. He's went to launch one in Port Alfred in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape with the premiers of those two provinces. He had a dream of a bullet train. The president continuously keeps dreaming, but the proof is in the pudding. When will they buckle down and get to the work of what they are saying? The economy is on its knees. There's an issue of the basic income grant that has to be dealt with within the State of the Nation address. Does he introduce the over 1,000 rands basic income grant, or does he continue with the 350? This is largely going to be a State of the Nation address which is economical, but will also focus on social issues and alleviating poverty that is ravaging the people of the country. But the honorable members or dishonorable members, sorry, no red carpet for you today.
Well, like Samgelo said, the proof is in the pudding. And of course, let me just head back to my two awesome co-workers, Bongiwe and Vuyo.
And Natasha, with that, one can almost get a hint of what some of those who are at the back, who are going to be encountering Samgele, are going to be going through, because there are some tough questions to be answered tonight, Vuyo. And one of the things, though, that is quite critical that Samgele mentions, Vuyo, is around the issue of security, around the issue of preparation. And we saw this morning the president actually making his way into the City Hall in order to try and get a sense for himself of how things are going to be going tonight.
Indeed, he was here this morning. He was being taken through by the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. And it was interesting to actually see a notice. One couldn't help but notice that the security detail around him seemed to have been strengthened. No surprises for guessing why that is. On the back of what has happened, one of the themes for our conversations throughout this afternoon as we build up towards his speech. But you could see, you could tell even yesterday that lots of people have been, security detail has been deployed here to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Not only will it be embarrassing, but it will give South Africans the sense that nothing has been done, about security, in spite of the things that we've been through, in spite of what that report, that panel gave us actually said. So you could see, in fact, you could hardly, see him. He was like in Gaff. You had all these people around him, making sure that there's no opportunity for whoever might have some sinister agenda. Whether that carries, of course, we will see. But God forbid.
One of the things that I'm very interested in finding out is, if there is anyone protecting any plugs inside so that we don't see a repeat of the day before the January 8th statement, the lights going off, who knows, because I'm certain that that is one of the areas of concern. But Vuyo, one of the most important things is also that, we're going to be touching on as we continue with this broadcast in the afternoon is the significance of this particular place, because even for him, it holds a special place in his heart, because Vuyo, it was right there on that steps where there is that statue of the late former statesman Nelson Mandela, where he was holding the mic for him right after his release from prison. So certainly for him, it's not only a historic moment in the first State of the Nation address being delivered here and outside of the National Assembly, but at the same time, he delivers it at the place where he himself was part of history.
Indeed. At a symbolic level, it's all those things that you've just said. But this is one time South Africans aren't looking for symbolism. South Africans are looking to hear from him whether he and his cabinet have learned any lessons from what we have seen, whether he and his cabinet can come up with solutions to the country's problems on the back of that pandemic, on the back of record high unemployment levels. So there is a lot more that South Africans expect beyond what we are seeing there right now. And we are going to keep on interrogating these issues. We have a panel of analysts lined up to go back to